All right, guys. Hey, so we're going to pick up here with the second part of the review, in which we're going to talk about the second process that we learned about, which was photosynthesis. And I actually like this diagram quite a bit to show you what's happening on. It's really elementary. It literally comes from an elementary school textbook. This image does, but I enjoy it because it's got the really important details of what's happening. We've got water as an input into plants, and we've also got carbon dioxide as an input. Remember, those were both waste products from cellular respiration. So these are the outputs of cell respiration now going into photosynthesis. So this is, again, that cycling that we're talking about of matter. Oxygen gas then is going to leave as a byproduct from that plant, which is one of the inputs into cell respiration, and over and around we go. However, we need a constant input of energy for life to happen. Life has to organize against what nature wants to do. Nature wants to move towards entropy. For us to organize, we need a constant input of energy. That is coming from the sunlight, ultimately in plants, and that energy can get transferred to organisms through consuming, which is called cellular respiration. Right. So we've got your equation here that you need to know for cellular respiration, which we have 6 moles of carbon dioxide plus 6 moles of water. Add a little bit of light energy, so this is an investment of energy or an endergonic process. We get then on this side glucose. We also get some oxygen gas. When we're looking at the relationships of what is happening here, we've got CO2 CO2 is ultimately getting reduced to glucose, and we have water that is ultimately being oxidized into oxygen gas. It's losing its electrons. Well, where is it losing its electrons? In this first phase of photosynthesis. So here again is that flow of energy. As light inputs, it makes its way through into organic forms, and then as it's going to leave as heat energy. So this is the flow of energy. This is the cycling of matter. This is something that you should absolutely be familiar with. My goodness, I hope you guys are watching the review podcast and you're taking some notes, because holy moly, this is one of the big ideas in AP biology. CO2 and H2O go into photosynthesis. Out comes organic molecules and oxygen. In they go to cell respiration. Out they go again. Back into photosynthesis. The cycle's a big deal. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Also, what we're looking at here in photosynthesis is the importance of some pigments, both some primary and some secondary pigments, in which we've got the primary pigment in photosynthesis being that green pigment that we're familiar with called chlorophyll. It comes in 2 forms, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Notice their absorption spectra are over here in the purple, the very short wavelengths, and in the longer wavelengths of red. So plants will absorb that purple and blue wavelength of light. Chlorophyll will, and it will use that in order to excite its electrons. Green light would be sort of useless. Carotenoids also have a peak towards this range, and green again, sort of useless, right? So the color that we see is actually the reflected light, not the absorbed light that will do anything for an organism. We separate photosynthesis into 2 main components: the light reactions, which are made out of photosystem 2, an electron transport chain, and photosystem 1. We also have the Calvin cycle, or sometimes referred to as the light-independent reactions, because light is not an input here. Instead, CO2 is the input. And then we have G3P as your main output, oxygen gas released as a waste product. So what did you need to know about this first system? Well, I'm going to get to this analogy that I really like, but ultimately you should be able to read the importance of all three of these steps that are outlined, in which we have we have water losing its electrons. It's being oxidized into oxygen gas, right? So the electrons are being dropped off, and they're excited here. These are chlorophyll pigments. Right here, this is chlorophyll. That chlorophyll is going to have its electrons excited, and they're going to jump up in potential energy. That now, just like in oxidative phosphorylation in the electron transport chain over in cellular respiration, is going to provide the potential energy to move these H pluses, these protons, against their concentration gradients, where we're going from the stroma into the thylakoid space. Low to high concentration. If we're going to do that, if we're going to push the rock up the hill, we need potential energy that comes in the form of electrons. That is what is in common between these 2 systems, the electron transport chain in cell respiration and the electron transport chain in photosynthesis. They use the fall of electrons in order to drive this concentration of low to high. right? As we're doing that, H pluses are going to build up in the thylakoid space. That's really, really important detail because that's going to provide the ATP ultimately necessary to move on to the Calvin cycle. And that ATP, that energy is going to be transferred into molecules of glucose. Some of it will be lost, but a lot of it will be transferred, this buildup, ultimately because light excited electrons, and those electrons fell down. That potential energy gets moved into ATP. That ATP now is going to move its potential energy into the glucose, and that's how glucose ultimately gets this potential energy from light. It takes several steps in order to get there. Those electrons then need to go somewhere, so they're going to go back into another photosystem. They get excited by some more light, another photon. The electrons jump back up in potential energy, but instead of falling this time and driving H pluses down into the thylakoid space, they're going to get dropped off to NAD plus. That is going to get reduced to NADPH. There's some more potential energy because we excited them again. So there's more potential energy moving into the Calvin cycle. We now have a ton of potential energy that we can move on to the next cycle, and that is the main part of the light reactions. That's why we need light in photosynthesis. If you cut off the light source, you cannot have the splitting of water. They will not give off oxygen gas, and they certainly won't go on to the Calvin cycle in order to take CO2 and fix it into organic forms. Okay, this is the analogy that I like a lot, in which we have photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. The photons are going to take an electron. This is chlorophyll that would be sitting here. Its electrons get excited. They jump up. And then what we have is the falling slowly of electrons that are ultimately going to make ATP. We saw how that process actually happened. Then they're going to make their way to photosystem 1. Boom, they jump up again in potential energy. Now they're going to get dropped up to NADPH, and they can move on into the Calvin cycle, or the light-independent reactions. Ultimately, what we're looking at is CO2 here, right? Because CO2 is the source of all of the carbon that we use in our bodies to make up our bodies. Carbon is the organic atom. It is what there's an entire branch in college. If a lot of you are interested in going to medical school, the first big weeder course that you'll take, where everybody starts pre-med when they get to college, the first one where you start dropping out, about 66% of medical school students who claim pre-med, they drop out after this class called organic chemistry, in which it is all of the chemistry of carbon. There's an entire 2 sections of college based around just one atom. That's how important it is, because ultimately it makes up all of the molecules that make up life. It is the backbone of biochemistry, carbon. So all of the things that make us up, all of the macromolecules, remember they all have carbon, they all have oxygen. That's because of CO2. So that's why we're focusing on this, and this is the CO2 moving into these other systems. So where does this take place? Well, here's the chloroplast, and inside of the chloroplast there's these interesting little green pancakes that are stacked up called grana, and then each one of those little pancakes is a thylakoid. Inside of the thylakoid is, and they're green for a reason because they have a ton of chlorophyll. That's where the light reactions take place. So we have water coming in and light coming in which oxygen is going to leave. NADPH and ATP are going to go over into the Calvin cycle, and that takes place in something called the stroma, which is like the cytoplasm of the chloroplast. Right, so looking into that in a little bit more detail, really ultimately what we have here is we have carbon dioxide entering, and this carbon is going to go through a cycle. It's going to go through 3 big stages. The first one is that we have this RUBP as your starting molecule. So just like we had a starting molecule in the citric acid cycle, we also have one here. This is 5 carbons. Notice that when the CO2 gets incorporated by the enzyme Rubisco, it goes to a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbon molecule that then gets split into 2, 3 carbon molecules. Now, for every 3 CO2, you get 6 of these 3 PGA that are made. Right, so that's what these coefficients here are showing. Let's just focus on where the carbon is going. Notice we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We then have to invest a little bit of ATP in order to destabilize the PGA. We're then going to take those electrons that we made also in the light reactions, and we're going to reduce this PGA into G3P. We have added the electrons ultimately that came from the splitting of water to G3P. We've also invested that ATP we made through phosphorylation in the light reactions. So we've reduced PGA to G3P. The reason that we have the light reactions is so we can do this. G3P is now a building block that can go on to make a molecule of glucose or sucrose or starch or whatever type of carbohydrate a plant needs to make, whether it's structural or whether it's for energy. Then what we need to do is go through a regeneration cycle. So we can only get 1 out of every 6 of these molecules that are made, these G3P. Only 1 can go through a synthesis pathway and turn into glucose. The other 5 need to get recycled back, and that's because we need to make more RUBP. We need to get the starting molecule back. So we're going to invest 3 more ATP, and a bunch of chemical reactions with enzyme intermediates here are going to happen. And what we're going to do is take 5 G3Ps. Notice how many carbons there are. 1, 2, 3. There's 5 of these molecules, so 15 carbons total. We're going to fix them into 3 5-carbon molecules, so there's still 15 carbons. Notice that we've got phosphorylation happening that came from ATP to going to ADP. We now have 3 RUBP, and they can go back into the cycle and join up with CO2 and do the whole process over again for all this stuff coming in. Those are the 3 main parts of this Calvin cycle that you need to know. CO2 comes in, G3P leaves. Good luck, guys. This is easily, without a doubt in my mind, both the most dry and difficult concept for a biology teacher to teach. It is so abstract. It is so difficult. I don't know how many colleagues I've talked to about their struggles with teaching this to students. Ultimately, I think what it comes down to is that you're just constantly trying to make sense of this. At the very least, let's say at the very least, you get through this and you're still like, I have no idea what the heck is going on. This is so complex. How am I ever going to remember all of this stuff? There's some big take-home messages that we can move into ecology with matter recycling and energy flowing. That will help us out with ecology. But the very, 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 very least, you go take biology in college and you'll say, oh crap, I remember talking about some of this stuff. And believe it or not, that might be the most valuable lesson that you gain from the unit. Study hard, guys. Ask me questions if you have questions. I'm really hoping the podcasts are helping, especially if you're investing time, which I know some of you are. You're investing tons and tons and tons of time. We're getting close. We're getting to crunch time, 39 days away. You guys can do it. Study hard. Ask me questions. I will talk to you guys tomorrow in class.